Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy Holistic Transformation Podcast. Today's wonderful guest speaker is LisaErickson. She is an energy worker specializing in women's energetics, sexual trauma healing, chakra manifestation, and kundalini awakening. She is the author of Chakra Empowerment for Women and the Art and Science of Meditation. She is certified in meditation instruction and trauma sensitivity and has trained in a variety of energy healing and somatic modalities. She is a member of the Breath Network, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting holistic healing and healers for sexual trauma survivors. Today, she's going to talk to us about chakra work for trauma healing. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks so much. I'm really glad to be here. Dancing Bear, such a great name.
Yeah, that's my spirit name. And of course, I'm big on meditation. Anybody that knows me knows that. And I'm an energy worker, so this should be great talking to you today. So tell us your transformational story and how you got started. Why is this now your passion?
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned that you used to work in Silicon Valley. I started out my career in tech as well. And as a young woman in New York working in tech, I started experiencing a lot of stomach aches and headaches. Went through the whole rigmarole of the medical system and not getting anywhere. Finally, I actually had a fairly enlightened doctor who said to me, this really could be stress symptoms. This is 30 years ago now. And you should consider yoga or meditation, which was pretty unusual at that time. Now I live in LA, I have a yoga studio every block, but it wasn't that common then. The meditation class that I happened to walk into was a chakra-based meditation class. And that really clicked for me. On the one hand, it really dissolved my stomach and headaches within a month, which was sort of amazing. So then I was so curious, what is this about? And I also realized how much I'd been picking up energy. It sort of changed my whole perception of how I'd been experiencing life, realizing I'd been an intuitive and empath my whole life. And it really transformed, sent me on this journey, which was at first personal and spiritual, eventually migrated over more to also the energy healing medicine side of things, and a change in career 15 years later.
Oh, it took 15 years.
Yeah, of training before I, first on my own path, et cetera, before I really made the migration. And now I've been doing that for 18 years. So it's been a while.
Yeah, I have a similar story. It was over 30 years ago. And the same thing, the doctor said, meditate.
Interesting. That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. And it wasn't that common 30 years ago for a doctor to say that.
No, and I was an atheist at the time. And I was like, what?
Yeah, interesting. Love it.
Yeah. But we all had to wake up somehow. And I think illness woke a lot of us up.
Yeah, a physical illness often is a message that causes a change.
Yeah, because if you don't change, you die.
Yeah.
So how do you work with people? The energy work and the chakras and all of that. How do you work with that?
Yeah. I have a few different modalities, but primarily I help work. It's mostly contemplative energy work. So it is not, for example, Reiki or me channeling through my hands, etc. I do a little bit of that, but more of it is contemplative work. I'm guiding someone into their own energy body, and we are based on different emotional situations, memories, etc., looking for the ways the patterns have developed in response to that situation or the wounds, etc., and liberating them with light from someone's own chakra system. And then I'm usually giving them tools to use in between to try to really empower a particular aspect of a chakra. So when we're working in the session, I am supporting them with my own awareness in their energy body. But my ultimate goal is that someone is connecting with their chakras in a way that allows them to do that in the future on their own. So it's kind of this balance. And that's why I really call it chakra empowerment.
Teach a person to fish.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Is that similar to pranic style healing, or is this very different?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has similarities to that, although I have not trained in pranic healing. And in general, I did at one time train a lot in kundalini yoga and pranayama techniques that also circulate a lot of energy through the chakras in the energy body, but usually correspond to breathing techniques. I don't now use very many breathing-based techniques myself, because as I became more trained in trauma sensitivity, it turns out breathing techniques can actually be triggering for a certain subset of the trauma population. So I don't work with breathing techniques until I've known someone for quite some time and I know whether that's going to be the case or not. It's really stimulates the nervous system. It can dysregulate the nervous system. And if someone already has that dysregulation in their nervous system, it's actually going to take them into an anxious state. So I don't do that part of it, but it is similar in some ways to pranayama work.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
And then you also do meditation, but you said it's more like talk about how you do that, because it sounded different to me than what some people do.
Yeah. Well, so I also teach meditation, but I study with a Tibetan Buddhist teacher called Lama Tsultrim Allione. So my own personal meditation practice, and when I teach meditation, is somewhat separate from my energy work practice, which is more chakra-based and shamanic-based. My own personal spiritual practice, I feel really informs my healing practice, but it's somewhat separate. And the meditation that I teach is somewhat separate. I have some clients who are crossover, but in a way they're separate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Excuse me. And then you said you had you work with healing and somatic modalities. Can you want to talk a little bit more about that? What are some of those?
Yeah, I really view the subtle body or the energy body as this intersection between your physical, your psyche, your spirit, right? So to me, it's really important, especially if you're dealing with emotions, that you're connecting with where do you feel those in the body? That is the somatic piece of that. And for anyone that has any sort of trauma or abuse, and that can include emotional abuse, addiction, more and more research is pointing us to the fact that to heal that, you need to be very embodied. You need to really, it isn't just talking it through in your head. What happened? What was the story? Who did what to who? What was the narrative? Talk therapy is helpful to help you understand how you got the way you are. But if you want to change the patterns, if you want to rewrite them, you need to get into your body. When I get triggered because someone says something that reminds me of my father that used to abuse me, what happens in my body? To me, then also what happens in my energy body? How do I counter that and rewrite it over time so I have a new reaction? So that is what somatic work and energy work, to me, that's how they dovetail.
Yeah, it's so true. I meet patients all the time that come in, they're not in their body at all. Of course, I can't give them acupuncture when they're not in their body. I got to get them in their body first. It's the only way you can heal. So you're just doing it through the chakra system then. Nice. And I totally agree with that. Excuse me. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. My voice keeps coming and going these days.
Throat chakra stuff going on, clearing going on.
Is that what that is? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what your day's been like, but.
Well, it's been the energy the last several days has been off the charts.
This eclipse. Well, okay. So by the time I shouldn't do time sensitive things, I suppose, but when we are filming right now, we just had this big eclipse and it did create a lot of disruption, I'm finding, in a lot of people's lives. So
it didn't disrupt my life, but when there's a lot of disruption going on with other people, I have to shut down and do a lot of energy work to balance it out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me the last several days, over the weekend especially, and then the beginning of this week. I just have to go within and deal with all the stuff going on. I know that sounds weird, but
no, it doesn't. I do so much work, especially with women, on energy boundaries, and if someone's a healer or an empath, we're already so intuitively sensitive. That's why we do this work. But you do have to know how to create those boundaries, how to refresh, how to clear when there's a lot going on in your client network or your family, or that's a huge theme for me as well, for sure.
Yeah. Today feels really good though.
Good. Yay.
Yeah. Now with the chakra work, some of my experiences, like I worked with, I have a lot of shamanic training, and I worked with a lady, maybe I shouldn't say her name. Anyway, she was a Cherokee medicine woman that I studied with. And she was really upset because someone had balanced her chakras and now her third eye was shut down. So do you ever have experiences like that where you work with people and then all of a sudden the chakras are different or part of their gifts go away or something like that?
No, I mean, that sounds odd to me. I don't know exactly what she means by balancing. Maybe the only thing I can guess at would be you were talking about how you sometimes have clients come in who are out of their body. When I work with a lot of people who are very spiritual, often that is the pattern that has developed. They're totally top heavy. I mean, the chakras are really meant to be equally strong. You know, it's like a tree. You have to have strong roots in proportion to the branches. So if someone's really top heavy, they're all up in their upper chakras all the time, it can become dissociative. It can become disconnected. I find that with a lot of trauma survivors, right? Because disassociation is one way of surviving trauma. So people can develop the pattern of just being sort of out of their body because it feels safer. So if it was something like that, maybe the person was trying to anchor them and they experienced it as the third eye shutting down. In fact, they just weren't used to being in their body. Now I'm really projecting, but that I have seen with clients.
Based on what I know of her, that makes a lot of sense. I never even thought of that.
So
Yeah,
her third eye wasn't actually closed, but she wasn't yet used to feeling what it was like to be fully embodied and
fully
using her third
embodied.
eye, as opposed to traveling out her third eye.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. The other challenge I've seen with people who have done too many drugs
Yeah.
is they'll blow open a chakra.
Yes.
And do you have any experience with helping people heal that and reclose, especially who work with people who blew open their crown chakra?
Yeah. Yes, it can happen through drugs. It can happen through sort of kundalini activation that was too sudden. And sometimes those two things go together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's really grounding that person. And in a way, you have to create a sort of energetic container that is very much about the physical elements. Those lower four chakras in the system I work with, the root, the sacral, the navel, the heart, they're linked to the four elements of earth, water, fire, and air. And that is the best thing is literally, you know, I'm going to steep that person in nature, in the elements, trying to get them down into those lower chakras. So all of this can sort of rebalance. It's really like you shot too much. You plugged, you put a 60-watt light bulb into 100-watt, whatever it is, and turned it on, right? And it shot out, right? And you have to like, whoo, get that back settled back down. Yeah.
I know what that is like.
Yeah. It's a rebalancing process for sure. But nature is one of the best for that in combination with the lower chakra work and the root chakra work, which is what a lot of what I'm doing with trauma too, trying to help people feel safe back in their body.
Yeah, that's important too. And getting past the denial and the some of the trauma people just don't even remember.
Yeah.
When you start working with them, all of a sudden it comes forward and it's almost a second trauma because it's like, oh my God.
That is the challenge of working with trauma. You don't want to re-traumatize people, and everyone. What modalities are going to be helpful for someone is different. I don't, for that reason, work a lot with memory. Meaning, I don't specifically try to unearth memories. I try to. Sometimes you need to, but I focus more on how is this impacting you now? What patterns of anxiety or a fight, flight, or flee, right, are kicking in your normal life? And what is the energy pattern and the nervous system pattern behind that? Can we help rewrite that now? However you got it, let's rewrite the software now, right?
Yeah, in hypnotherapy, we call that reframing.
Exactly. It's reframing, and it's sort of trying to do that in the energy body, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I have patients come in and I'll say, how can I help you? And they'll tell me the story and I'll go, do you say that story all the time to everybody? And they go, well, yeah. I says, well, we need to change your story. Because if
Yeah.
you don't change the story, you'll never heal.
Yeah. You can become identified with it to the point where you can't, you get
Mhm.
stuck in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like people that say my whatever and they name a condition. You'll
Yes.
never heal it as long as you own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is trauma sensitivity?
Yeah, this is really for all healers, meditation teachers, anyone working with people, medical doctors even. What are the principles that to keep in mind in terms of working with someone in a way that will not trigger them, right? And it is different for everyone, but I think in the context of energy healing, of meditation instruction, the fields I work in, sometimes we take for granted certain environments are relaxing, having the lights dim, having incense on. In fact, they can be triggering, right? Even working one-on-one in a closed door room can be triggering for someone who's been in an abusive situation. Then things like breathing work that really can move energy quickly. It also activates the nervous system quickly. Anything that sort of hyper activates the nervous system, if someone's stress point is already high, can be triggering. So it's all of these sorts of things, always asking permission to do anything. And if you're entering into, say, a process, whether it's a guided meditation, a shamanic journey, anything, always collaborating with that person and letting them know we can end this whenever you want. This isn't like something once we go into it, you're stuck in it. Because anything that triggers the feeling of being trapped and not in control, for anyone who's experienced abuse, sexual abuse in particular, that is going to be most likely to trigger it. So as a healer, you have to sort of let go of, I'm the authority, we're going to do this, right? It has to be more like, how about we do this? Some of that is intuitive for a lot of us, but there are a lot of healing modalities that are very like step by step. And I have a lot of people that have done those kinds of things, and then they feel there's something wrong with them. It didn't help me. It helped all these other people. So I must be damaged, beyond repair. So it's a lot of those kinds of principles. So I work with a lot of energy healers around developing trauma sensitivity in the way they work.
Very good. Yeah. I have patients where I can't close the treatment door.
Yes.
The door left open. You can't close the door. In fact, I always ask, you want the door open or closed? I just don't even wait for them to tell me. Because that's really, really true. So how do you teach people to use meditation to work with their chakras and energy, to work on their goals and other things?
Oh, yeah. In terms of manifesting and goals, yeah, it depends on the individual. If we're working with someone who's experienced trauma, number one, I'm usually working with shoring up those lower chakras, because what happens is if we think in terms of the chakras and fight, flight, or flee, right? Or fawn, kind of the 4 trauma responses we often talk about. Flight would be you sort of leaving your body, right? Fight is you like get in your navel chakra and it's all just congealed there and you're just, fighting it out. Fawning is usually sort of like people pleasing. It's very sort of heart and throat, but it's not oriented around expression. It's oriented around, how do I get this person to treat me okay? And freeze is just sort of a complete lockdown. The whole energy body system just can't function. So in all of those cases, we need to work first with the lower chakras. And as it happens, they are also the manifesting chakras, right? Like spiritual growth, we often talk about being the energy going up through the chakras. Manifesting is taking an idea from up here and gradually, birthing it into material reality.
It's got to go up and down. It's a cycle.
Yeah. And so when someone is not in those lower chakras because of, for whatever reason, patterns, anxious patterns, whether they're trauma-based or not, that's often the first barrier to manifesting. And you see that all the time. People who can't keep a job or can't follow through on their goals, and they have that kind of history. So working with the lower chakras is first, and then really working from that downward path and figuring out where are the blocks. Can you not speak what you need? Can you not attract the resources? I'm pointing to my heart. Can you not plan? That's the navel. Where are the blocks to the task side of manifesting and putting it together, the energy work and the task side? So I'll have someone doing the downward flow as a meditation while also, focusing on what tasks are going to be this week.
I like to take people through the whole spiral.
Yeah, up and down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. I even needle in the spiral.
Yeah.
Get that energy flowing in the spiral. That's really important. Have you ever studied any Hawaiian type stuff? They're one of the only spiritual systems that work with all of the chakras. Most of them are focused on one specific chakra.
Yeah. I haven't studied formally. I've read a lot, Ho'oponopono and all that kind of thing, but I haven't formally studied in any system.
Oh, okay, not Huna or Ha or anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ho'oponopono is more the first four chakras.
Mm.
Interesting though. Okay. Do you have any other skill? You have so many skills. I'm not sure what to even ask you about.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned shamanism several times. Tell us about your shamanic background.
Yeah, that is mostly in the context of my Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Tibetan Buddhism is based on Bon, which is a shamanic tradition. And my particular teacher utilizes the idea of journeys with allies, with guides, with Buddhas, even, right? As a way of accessing our own wisdom. In some of these tools, you're externalizing that from yourself. In others, you might be connecting to a deity or a guide that you think of as outside of you. In other cases, you're feeling inside your own body and then creating that ally and having a journey. So that is really doing a lot of journeying where the place you're taken, a gift you receive, the questions that you ask in that place and the answers that you receive are part of the healing process, part of the guidance process. And it connects to energy body work for me because I always start and end in the body. Like if we're going to be asking a question, where do you feel that discomfort in your body first? And where do you feel your own wisdom when you integrate at the end, integrating that back in at the end, the answer you receive.
Interesting. Wow, that's nice. So now I understand you have a free gift for people, Feminine Masculine Chakra Pathway Empowerment, long name. So tell us about your gift.
Yeah, so this is a video where I will guide you through empowering the even numbered chakras. So the sacral and the pelvis, the heart and the third eye as being the heart of the feminine energy body, and then the odd numbers as being the heart of the masculine, and then integrating the two together. And obviously in this context, we're talking about energies we all have, regardless of our biological sex. We're talking more in terms of yin and yang. So it is a very powerful form of healing and of manifesting and of clearing.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. So if you're listening on YouTube, I'll have the link down below. If you're listening on the podcast, the link is enlightenedenergetics.com/free-gift, all lowercase. So that's enlightenedenergetics.com/free-gift. And that sounds like a really wonderful gift. And you mentioned earlier that people can use that over and over again.
Yes. So you can have me guide you, but you can also utilize it as a meditation. And I talk a little bit about that.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. Do you have any closing words for our audience?
No, just if there's anyone out there that hasn't experimented with their energy body, they feel like it's too woo-woo, I think really just give it a try and see what you feel. You don't have to believe in it conceptually in your mind. Just do a little bit of focus on your heart or any other chakra and see what you discover.
Very good. Yes, and I agree with you completely. So thank you so much for being with us. And everyone, remember to be the light you want to see in the world.